Incoming Department of Government Efficiency Co-Chief Vivek Ramaswamy says the Trump administration plans deep cuts in government spending, including the Department of Education.
We expect mass reductions. We expect certain agencies to be deleted outright. We expect mass reductions in force in areas of the federal government that are bloated. We expect massive cuts among federal contractors and others who are overbilling the federal government.
This with the standard of education in focus. According to an international study published in 2022, the U.S. ranked 9th in reading, 34th in math, and 16th in science out of 81 countries in subnational education systems.
Meanwhile, President Trump just now signing that executive order to gut the Department of Education. Let's bring in Selena Wang there at the White House. He said right at the beginning of this, Selena, that this sounds like a strange thing to do. Walk us through what this plan looks like.
Well, for the Trump administration, what the president is doing right now is fulfilling a campaign promise. He had campaigned on entirely getting rid of the Department of Education, but that is not within presidential powers. It requires an act of Congress. So in this executive order, the president is saying they are doing everything they can within their legal bounds to diminish and to dismantle this agency. And that process is already underway. The administration had fired about 50% of the department's workforce just in the last week, and this executive order is asking his education secretary, who you just saw next to him moments ago, to continue that process. Now, important note from the president there. He said moments ago that Pell Grants, Title I funding resources for children with disabilities and special needs will be fully preserved. That has been a big concern from education groups and parents who are worried about what's going to happen to these critical functions of the education department. The president saying that some of those functions are going to be absorbed into other agencies.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Nikki, and I'm just another brown girl in America, and we trying to figure it out. But today, what we are diving into some major news. So, President Trump has signed an executive order to get rid of the DOE. Yes, you heard it right. He signed an executive order of getting rid of the Department of Education. It might be on its way out, guys. I don't know. We're going to see. But in this video, we're going to be breaking down what this executive order can mean for teachers, students, programs, and just what could be affected by it. So I don't want to make this video long. I will say I am just like a little upset today, just so you can hear like a fun fact about me, because I won't even say upset. I would say annoyed, because I do not, if you notice, I have my big headsets on and I do not like wearing them. But enough of that. Enough about me. So first off, let's talk about the fact that everything that President Trump is doing, he ran on, okay? You saw that in the intro clip. He ran on it. Everybody knew what he was going to do, and everybody knew what the plan was. Also, you guys been complaining about the Department of Education for years now, and how they don't do anything, and how our kids don't learn anything. So what we want to do is just to make sure everything is on the up and up. We're going to take a look. We're going to watch a couple of news clips, see what this thing all about, see what's what. So without that being said, but I do want to say this, and I say all that to say, he ran on this, guys. Look at this. You see that? That is the 2024 election electoral map. Contrary to what they tell you about people being upset, that's why you don't really see an outrage because of this. Look at that. You got your few, you got your counties. You got a couple of those. But other than that, but I did run across this video. And for all of you guys don't know, I don't know if you know Michaela Montgomery. Michaela Montgomery is the young lady that was at the Chick-fil-A and organized, and President Trump had came to the Chick-fil-A, and it was a whole big thing when the Black community, of course, because she gave him a big hug. She was happy to see him. And of course, who wouldn't? It's a former president. You know what I mean? But anyway, if you don't remember her, I ran across this podcast she was on and just kind of breaking down what's going on, what's going to be allocated to what. So let's look and take a look at Miss Michaela.
Dismantling of the Department of Education. Let me go ahead and break it down.
Come on, talk about it.
You got a whole bunch of people who think that these kids who don't get food at home will no longer get food at school because there is no DOE. First of all, it's the Department of Agriculture that handles the school meals. So there's still no child that's going to be left hungry. The next thing that I heard was that, oh my God, they're going to get rid of the Pell Grant and all of these other things so that HBCUs are going to suffer and kids who can't afford school aren't going to be able to go to school. Those instances, that subset of issues is going to be moved over to the Department of Treasury, and they're going to handle your new Pell Grants and your student aid and things like that. And then they'll say things like, oh my God, well, they're not going to fund disabilities or the IEP programs. That's being moved over to the Department of Health and Human Services. So if more Black people knew that, we wouldn't have this uproar about the DOE going. And then let me also...
Yeah, so... You know, I think Michaela explained it well, because I would have never ran it down like that. But it's really just the fear mongering, you know. They like the. It's really just because they want to get back in power. Like, it's a race, it's a competition, and it's fear mongering. Like, they want you to be scared. They want you to just hate everything that's going on. When in reality, you all know that this thing has not been working. Like, it's just not been working. I went and looked on the, well, before we go to that, you know what? Before I go to that, because we'll just kind of read some statistics. Let's take a look, and we'll go straight from the horse's mouth. Well, not really. Let's take a look and see what Press Secretary Caroline Levis say.
I'm live now from Fox.
Where was their criticism of our nation's failing test scores for the last several decades? The Department of Education was founded in the 1970s, and since then we have spent more than $3 trillion at this federal bureaucracy. What has been the return on that investment for the American taxpayer? Levels that are less than ideal, less than proficient. Our children's test scores are incredibly concerning when it comes to reading rates, literacy rates, math, and science test scores. The numbers prove that, and the president is finally, this president is finally taking much needed action to return education to where it belongs, and that's to educators closest to students in their classrooms in their respective states. We're going to have a great event here later at 4 o'clock. There will be students here, teachers here, parents here, educators, and of course governors from around the country who are very excited about taking on this responsibility to educate our nation's students.
Who's going to run federal student loans?
So the Department of Education will be much smaller than it is today. As you know, the president's executive order directed Linda McMahon to greatly minimize the agency. So when it comes to student loans and Pell Grants, those will still be run out of the Department of Education, but we don't need to be spending more than $3 trillion over the course of a few decades on a department that's clearly failing in its initial intention to educate our students.
So is the federal government going to be
going to
spending
be
less?
much smaller than it is? Is it not going to be shut down completely? And then I have a second question.
As I said, Pell Grants and student loans will still be run out of the department in Washington, D.C., but the great responsibility of educating our nation's students will return to the states.
And the Department of Education plays a critical role in enforcing civil rights laws that prohibit discrimination. Who's going to do that now?
Any critical functions of the department, such as that, will remain. But again, we're greatly reducing the scale and the size of this department.
What about federal Title I funding and special education funding? Is that still good?
Same answer.
Yes.
Thanks, Caroline.
All right, so
President criticized the rate decision yesterday. Is he looking to replace members of the Federal Reserve Board?
we're not gonna watch all of that, but I just kind of want, because they're not talking about it anymore. But what I do want to go over is look at this, just kind of based off what we're doing. Like, So let's look at this. First of all, how much does the Department of Education spend in 1 year? Straight Arrow Facts News. So we got, actually in 2022, oh my God, look how much that was. So you got 252, look at that graph. For fiscal year 2024, the Department of Education's gross cost for its programs and operations reached roughly $252 billion. Total outlays, which account for a certain spending adjustment, totaled at $268 billion. The expenditure accounts for a total of 4% of federal government spending for the year. 4%. I think that's outrageous that that's what they value and that's all they put into our future and our kids and the people that's supposed to run government. Now, one thing I will say that really is starting to irritate me, because the Democrat Party likes to project, and I'm starting to see that. And what they'll do is whatever they're doing, they'll blame you, or they'll blame the Republicans, or blame the voters, or whatever. If you like the No Child Left Behind, that was a disaster. Okay, kids, they can't learn. They just getting passed along. No accountability, and they just getting passed along. They don't get homework anymore. And then we talking about our future leaders. That goes back to what I was going to say about the projection. Our future leaders, they'll say what they've been saying or starting to run this narrative, and one of their talking points is the reason that they want to mess with the Department of Education is that's because they want the voters dumb so they can do whatever they want and run their oligarchy, whatever. But in all actuality, that's what they've been doing for decades. That's what the department just got here in the late 70s or something, 1980. The Department of Human and Health takes the 25% of the total budget. Medicare, medical costs, Social Security take up about 22%. Treasury Department takes up about 19%. Defense is at 13%. You would think that would be a little bit more. The veterans, of course, at the lowest of the totem pole, and the Department of Education, lowest at the totem pole. That's crazy. Like, where's the priorities? And most of the funding for the Department of Education goes towards colleges and universities. When the most critical years are the early years, when they soaking up all that good information. Those are the most formidable years, the critical years. You're going to wait and put all this money towards the latter years when you're not even passing. I mean, now you're just passing them and they don't know anything. We are like at the bottom. Like, come on, y'all. 60% of the $160 billion of the budget goes straight to the Office of Federal Student Aid. So those are our student loans. The higher education chunk pays for the Pell Grants, work study programs, and loans. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Thursday, March 20th, the department will continue to manage federal student loans under the Trump's action. Roughly 25% or $68 billion gets transferred to states. Another $39.9 billion goes to elementary and secondary education grants. The department sent $18.8 billion to schools with a large number of poor, neglected, or educationally disadvantaged students. It spent $15.5 billion on special education programs across the country, and it allocated $5.5 billion to general school improvement programs like after-school programs and classroom technology. So, yeah, it's the end of that article. So yeah, I don't know, guys. We've been complaining about it for years. I've been saying I actually would prefer homeschooling, but everybody don't have that capacity. If you get the money back to the states and you let that money follow the kids, you let these people compete. Let them compete for your child. They want the funding. They want the money. They will teach better. They will do better. Not to mention, if it go back to the states, it will be the people closest to your child, closest to these schools, making the decisions about your child. That lady had them kids out of school well after the mandate was up. They was just out of school. That hurt these kids. The federal, so basically also what I'm reading is not demolished. It's just being moved around and it's going to be shrunk. That's basically what it is. They're going to shrink the government. But yeah, so, and like I said before, President Trump ran on this. So I want to go back just to show y'all.
Incoming Department of Government Efficiency Co-Chief Vivek Ramaswamy says the Trump administration plans deep cuts in government spending, including the Department of Education.
We expect mass reductions. We expect certain agencies to be deleted outright. We expect mass reductions in force in areas of the federal government that are bloated. We expect massive cuts among federal contractors and others who are overbilling the federal government.
This with a standard of education in focus. According to an international study published in 2022, the U.S. ranked 9th in reading, 34th in math, and 16th in science out of 81 countries in subnational education systems.
End of flashback.
Yeah. So, and then that happened. And then you had this. So nothing that is happening, he ran on it. I think the problem is this is the first time you had somebody run on something and actually try to do it, actually try to accomplish it. But then you got people that will vote and go against the worst thing, and it could be the best thing, but just because they hate a person, they will destroy this country. They will destroy our kids. They do not care. They don't care. And it's just terrible. I'm sick of it. I hope y'all sick of it. You let me know what you think in the comments. If you have not already, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you. I would appreciate it. Drop a dime in the comments. Let me know what you think. And I'll talk to you later.
Oh, oh, oh.